Good afternoon. As we continue with this first day of our symposium, Shantiniketan to Smithsonian, a tribute to Rabindranath Tagore, our next segment, taking us to the land of music. Music is the purest form of art. Therefore, true poets seek to express the universe in terms of music, said Tagore. And to take us right into this magical world of Rabindra Sangeet is Sharmila Roy Pommot, now based in Paris. Sharmila studied painting and graphic arts at Kala Bhavan in Shantiniketan. Sharmila Roy Pommot teaches musicology at Sorbonne in Paris and continues to win the hearts of people through her profoundly moving, soulful performances all over the world. Sharmila Roy Pommot is accompanied on tabla by Debu Nayak, and our dancer is Sharmila Sharma.
What divine drink wouldst thou have, my God, from this overflowing cup of my life? My poet, is it thy delight to see thy creation through my eyes, and to stand at the portals of my ears silently, to listen to thine own eternal harmony? Thy world is weaving words in my mind, and thy joy is adding music to them. Thou givest thyself to me in love, and then feelest thine own entire sweetness in me. Namaskar. I would like to talk about the legacy that Gurudev Rabindranath gives us, our own receptivity, the different layers of experience that we go through when we are students at Shantiniketan, and we carry with us all through our life. Why did he start this school? Because there are many ex-students of this school and the university in this hall today. And we all know that Tagore was a truant boy. He didn't like going to school. So, how did he describe this trauma? He says, in these self-conscious days of psychoanalysis, clever minds have discovered the secret spring of poetry in some obscure stratum of repressed freedom, in some constant fretfulness of thwarted self-realization. Evidently, in this case, they were right. The phantom of my long ago boyhood did come to haunt the ruined opportunities of its early beginning. It sought to live in the lives of other boys to build up its missing paradise. It's a lovely word, the missing paradise. So he believed that he was offering a missing paradise to his students. The first germ of this educational idea was a home school in the 90s, 1890s, when he was a young father. And then from 1901, it started taking form as a forest school. 1908, Girls start to study with the boys, co-education, a remarkable gesture, as Kathy revealed to us, for us women. 1912, the first draft of Ashram Shommiloni, that was the first offering of autonomy, self-governance to his students. And they are all beautiful chain of reactions of a truant boy. 1918, another architect of this place, Nandulal Bose, Master Moshai, the painter, sculptor, craftsman, teacher, a great teacher, he joins and inaugurates Kala Bhavan, the Faculty of Art, and he brings in a totally different aesthetic and social concept of arts. Do you hear me? 1900, from 1919, the dream of having an university is taking shape, and Tagore is a prolific writer. At the same time, he is a responsible teacher in spite of his travels all over the world and his fame as a Nobel laureate. He places the money that he earned with the Nobel Prize at his bank, and we, the university students, they benefit from the, how do you call it, shud in English? Interest. So we are profiting. We could go to a school because of the practical mind of a poet teacher. Tagore starts writing for us, and the first offering to us is nature. Trees become our friends. The classes are held outside, and he wants to encourage our spirit of curiosity about nature, about the insects, about the seasons, and how the leaves come, how the leaves fall, and how all the changes happen in nature. And the last thing that he encourages is our imagination by developing our faculties through art forms, through literary meetings, Sahitya Sabha, and also giving us an idea of autonomy that he started in 1912. Ashram Shommiloni gives us the first flavor of freedom that he loves so much. And the first feeling of freedom is to elect among us the Shampadok and the Shampadika, the two sides, the girl and a boy together to work together on projects. The projects are various. The main project is to accompany the younger students and organize literary meetings. The students learn to write, compose poetry, and do creative writing. And the second, more responsible tasks are related to works at the kitchen. You have to serve others, clean up. And the third is a much more difficult one because I belong to that group, I remember. It's called Bichar Sabha, where we have to judge our own crimes, little mischiefs and little crimes, and come to a decision, collective decision about punishment. About punishment, Tagore had a horror, absolute horror about the British schooling system, where there were body bodily, boys were punished. So there was no punishment, physical punishment as such. But we had to do some other kind of things to rectify the errors. Another task for Ashram Shommilani and the senior students and the junior ones is still to collect funds and help the poor, visit the nearby villages because we are surrounded by the Santals, the Bagdis, the Muslims, and other communities, and learn to accompany their lives with our own little capacity. So these are the various tasks or responsibilities that Tagore gives us. Another photo of a classroom under the sky. Of course, the question arises, the science classes and the geography classes, of course, they are held in proper houses, and it is still like that. And very often, the literary meetings and the operas that we stage, I'm using the present tense, although I'm living elsewhere now, but still we all share the same experience when we go back with little changes. So the first experience is freedom, freedom to be outside, freedom to be in nature. The second source of joy is the architects of Shantiniketan, knowing their works and what they offer us. The person at far right is Khiti Mohan Sen. He came to join Shantiniketan in 1908, and he was well versed in the medieval literature in Hindi, and he spoke many, many languages, Braj Bhasha and other languages. And he exposed all this beautiful literature to Tagore. And Tagore we will find that he started to change. The first 10 years or 8 years from 1901 to 10, we will find a Tagore who is very much immersed in adhattik paromota bodh, a feeling of spiritual supremacy, that there's a hierarchical notion of God, of the divine. And due to the beautiful presence of this man, he will discover these medieval literature. He will write a beautiful preface to the poetry of Dadu that Khiti Mohan Sen will compile. And little by little, Tagore is making himself ready for a different kind of voyage, a humanistic, spiritual voyage. And the culmination will be in 1930, the Hebert Lectures, The Religion of Man. And that is a homage that I would love to render to Khiti Mohan Sen. The other thing is, he shows that the popular cultures of India always created social harmony. Like in Birbhum, we have Shotto Pirer Pachali, Shottonarayan, the Hindu god, and Pir, the Sufi side of Islam. They are worshipped together. And secondly, of course, the songs of Baul and the philosophy of the Bauls. Who are the Bauls? They are a synthesis of the Sahaja Buddha philosophy, the Vaishnavas, and also the Sufis. So let me sing a little song of Tagore, which is inspired by the Baul tradition. The man of my heart, my indwelling man, lives in the heart of hearts, That is why I see him everywhere. আমার প্রাণের মানুষ আছে প্রাণে তাই হেরি তাই সকল খানে প্রাণের মানুষ আছে প্রাণে তাই হেরি তাই সকল খানে আছে সে নয়নতারায় আছে সে নয়নতারায় আলোক ধারায় তাই না হারায় ওগো তাই দেখি তাই যেথায় সেথায় তাকাই আমি যে দেখ পানে প্রাণের মানুষ আছে প্রাণে তাই হেরি তাই সকল খানে Nandalal Bose is sitting right next to Gurudev, and as I told you, Nandalal Bose will create a different way of teaching arts in Shantiniketan. He will create a pictorial dictionary to come to the essential of the forms that nature offers us, the leaves, the petals of the lotus, and he will go back to the old traditional designs and create this dictionary for us. He will be also constantly inspired by the folk culture. So he will free the artistic movements of Shantiniketan from the shackles of the, the Persian tradition or the English tradition or the European oil painting tradition, and he will take us to an open ground of freedom and develop a faculty of observation of nature which will be around us. The other architect there is properly an architect, He built beautiful houses that Sri Udayanarayan showed you, Shuren Kormoshai sitting there. Next to Tagore, and Master Moshai Nandalal is just after. Behind Kitimohon Sen, there is Shoilojaranjan Mojumdar. He will make the notation, he will be teaching songs and the music. Next to him, Professor Tanyan Sen, who will create the Sino-Indological Center in India, in Shantiniketan, in 1938. So, Tagore was not alone. There are architects, there are beautiful minds who accompany his dream, his educational ideas. The same theme continues. The person at the extreme right, Nityananda Vinod Goswami, was a Sanskrit scholar belonging to a very old Brahmin family. And what is the most exceptional achievement of this man, that he offered us a book of choras, nursery rhymes, and Tagore will write the most incredible preface to it. And Tagore will inspire him, he will coax him to write this and publish this compilation. And there, for the first time, Tagore will talk about the psychological sides of our nursery rhymes, Borgi Elo Deshe, how the Marathas came, and the jealous little sister, about the social colors of human relationships that are revealed in the choras. And my father is there as well, so I should not continue, I feel. So all along these experimentations that he is creating at Shantiniketan, what is at the basis, what is the essential thought that is guiding him? In his words, India has proved that it has its own mind, which has deeply thought, felt, and tried to solve, according to its light, the problems of existence. The education of India is to enable this mind of India to find out truth, to make this truth its own wherever found, and to give expression to it in such a manner as only it can do. Our education should be in full touch with our complete life, economical, intellectual, aesthetic, social, and spiritual. And our educational institutions should be in the very heart of our society, connected with it by the living bonds of varied cooperations. For true education is to realize at every step how our training and knowledge have organic connection with our surroundings. This is vitally important for the students. A very small example. This is the first Bengali reader that a Shantiniketan child has the privilege to find when he is around 3 to 4. And he can't read really, but he can see the images, the linokats, beautiful linokats done by Master Mashai Nandulal Bose. And this is very important. The poem, it's O and R, the first vowels of our alphabets. Choto khoka bole O A, shekhe nishe kotha kowa. So, it's really the sound that comes out, O A, but it's not really directly related to the vowels. So this is the direct way, pictorially enriched, so that the child's mind is constantly woken up. Another, this time they are the consonants, and as a child I was very afraid of these irregular consonants. Jo, ro, lo, bo. Joro, lobo, boshe ঘরে এক মনে পড়া করে. Jorolobo is a good boy because he stays home and he studies. So there is very little of Jorolobo in the writing itself, but Jorolobo becomes a person, a personification of the sounds. That is very, very interesting. Another thing which is so interesting in Tagore, in Rabindranath, is the first perception of our link with the human existence. And it comes in Trityo Bhag, in the third volume of this Bengali reader, that we may read around when we are in class 3 or 4. I think class 3. My elders will tell me. It's about a palm tree that wanted to fly away, and if it had wings, and which has been beautifully translated by William Radice, that we are going to use tomorrow. And then suddenly it realizes that the Mother Earth is not that bad, and it comes back once again, mentally of course, to its earthly corner. So in that way, that is the first perception of the sense of responsibility, that life has the dream side and life also offers and obliges us to perform certain duties. And it is all very subtle. When Tagore started, Rabindranath started Vishwabharati, he uttered these words that accompany me wherever I go, because I live in a very Cartesian system in France, and all the time I'm being exposed to that kind of, preconceived walls. We have come to this world to accept it, not merely to know it. We may become powerful by knowledge, but we attain fullness by sympathy. The highest education is that which does not merely give us information, but makes our life grow in harmony with all existence. So he doesn't distinguish between the utilitarian knowledge and non-utilitarian knowledges, because if Shiva and I, Shiv Kumar and I, we belong to Kalabhavan. So Kalabhavan people are considered to be a little mad, you know. And those who study physics or chemistry, they are the serious people. But for Tagore, in 1919, when he makes the curriculum of Vishwabharati, what do we find? We find the names like Kopileshwar Mishra to teach Panini's grammar, Vinayak Govind Shardeshmukh, Sanskrit literature, Khiti Mohan Sen, of course, Sanskrit literature again, Dharmaraj Rajguru Mahasthabir, Pali, the literature in Pali, the Buddhist philosophy, Bidhushekar Shastri from Maharashtra to teach again Pali, Prakrit and Sanskrit, Rabindranath Tagore to teach English and Bengali literature, C.F. Andrews, English literature, Gurdwal Malik, English literature, H.P. Morris, French language, Narsingh Bhai, German language. And then we have the fine arts, of course, Nandalal Bose, Master Mashai, Ashit Kumar Haldar, Surendranath Kaur. And then we have, of course, the music department with Dinendranath Tagore, Tagore's own nephew, Bhimrao Shastri to teach Veena, Mridangam, and the North Indian classical music, Nokuleshwar Goswami from Bishnupur Gharana to teach Esraj Sitar and North Indian classical music, Sangameshwar Shastri from the south to teach Veena, and Buddhimant Simha from Manipur to teach Manipuri dance. So only by the names that we have a palette of the whole culture of India. And this is the first time this is happening in a country, in our motherland, which is still colonized. And that was a very, very remarkable cultural revolution that was happening in Shantiniketan. This is a fresco by Nandalal Bose, Master Mashai, that is still in old library house. And it is the birth of Chaitanya. Chaitanya, who is the guru for all the bauls of the north of India. Chaitanya, the Vaishnav guru. And also it is very significant that it is the central panel of all the frescoes in the library. Why did Master Mashai do it? Sometimes I ask myself. Chaitanya has another connotation. Etymologically, it's the intelligence, the birth of intelligence. And we will find that apart from the Indian scholars, Tagore is inviting the Western scholars, such as Sylvain Lévy from Strasbourg. In 1921, he comes to teach the methodology of Sanskrit. He invites Stella Kramrisch, who taught at Harvard in Boston, the art historian, and as Binod Bihari Mukherjee will tell us, that the class of Stella Kramrisch will be compulsory for all the ashramites, and she was giving a coherence to our aesthetic history. And the other personalities, intellectuals who came, the list is very long. I would love to give the name of Arnold Bakke from Holland, a musicologist, who for the first time analyzed Tagore's musical experimentations. And he will put, how would I say, definitions on his kirtan styles, on his baul styles, on the Brahma Sangeet and the other styles. And for the first time, he will consider Tagore's music as true poetical and musical compositions. This is again a fresco of Nandalal that is in the old library building. This is the landscape of Shantiniketan, and I want to use it because for the first time, an Indian painter of that period in the 20s leaves behind the mythological subjects and takes up the everyday secular humanistic themes. And that was a great step at that time. And he inspired his students in that way. A sculpture of Ramkinkar Bej of a Santal family that comes home from the market, and look at the pure lines and the pure forms, and also he carries the same theme of Kinkarda, of Master Mosai, that is bringing art to life and the living people. Kathputuls that Nandalal studies here, as Picasso studied the African sculptures, which is again a little cultural revolution because we normally neglect them. Probably nowadays we tend to look at them a little more. And in these pure lines and pure forms, Master Mosrai finds aesthetic beauty, and in the courses that he proposes in Kalabhavan, there will be certain courses as copies of the Tibetan fresco paintings, and also he will open the eyes of his students towards the treasure house, that is our folk art forms. Haripura Congress posters done in 1936 by Master Mosai. Again, we find that he's coming down to the grassroots, to the common people, and using everyday motifs. A Mridangam player, and these were the posters that Gandhi wanted the Congress session to have. Another aspect of Tagore is his cross-cultural links. He visited Kathiawar in 1923, and he saw a little girl dancing with her mother with little bells. He came home and he invited the family to stay at Shantiniketan. They were a peasant family, and teach those kind of dance to the school girls and school boys. And that tradition is still going on and on. দুই হাতে কালের বন্দে রাজে সদাই বাজে ডাইনে বায়ে দুই হাতে কালের বন্দে রাজে সদাই বাজে ডাইনে বায়ে দুই হাতে কালের বন্দে রাজে সদাই বাজে ছুটি ছুটে নৃত্য ওঠে নিত্য বাজে বাজে ফুলে বাজে কাঁটায় আলো ছায়া জোর ভাটায় প্রাণের মাঝে ওই যে বাজে প্রাণের মাঝে ওই যে বাজে দুঃখে সুখে সংঘাতে নিত্য নূতন সংঘাতে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দির আজে সদাই বাজে ডাইনে বাঁয়ে দুই হাতে কালের মন্দির আজে সদাই বাজে। The photo that you see is that of a tree planting ceremony introduced by Tagore in 1928. And that is the first ecological movement. And now we have Bono Mahotsav, the forestation programs in India. And it became a joyous festivity. The other aspect of it, now it has been performed for Tagore's death anniversary, and it has become symbolical due to Kirti Mohan Sen's advice, because a sapling that is being planted when life is gone, it gives us the notion of the renewal, the renaissance. So this festival is one of the many festivals that Tagore introduces to give the idea of joy, because with freedom, the other side of his schooling, his educational ideas, that a child should feel the joy in whatever he's doing. The first performance of Chandalika, a story of an untouchable girl that Tagore adopted from a Buddhist Jataka from Nepal, Shardula Kanavadana, and it talks about social segregation and the pain of it. What is very important here, there's Mrinalini Saravai. She was about 16 when she joined Shantiniketan, and Tagore asked her readily to perform. She is a Bharatanatyam dancer and the directress of Darpana, as you know. And Tagore was all the time inviting new people, new visitors who came to Shantiniketan to participate. And this story is very important because it forms us to create, to have a social opinion, and which is sort of making us conscious of our role as a social being. So the girl is untouchable, shunned by the whole village. She is very, very sad about it. And she hates all the gods, because how can the gods keep her in this obscurity? She said, and when she's in pain, there's this Buddhist monk who comes and he asks for some water, and she offers it, and she is petrified. She refuses, and he insists, and then he gives her the magic words that you are a human being, you are good as well as any other human being. Water coming from you is auspicious. So she is transformed, and when she meets her mother, who is very conditioned, cynical, the ma says, "What's happened to you? You have changed." So she says, "Yes, mother, that is what he told me. His caste was the same as mine. It is a lie, 1,000 times a lie to call me a Chandal. If you call the dark cloud of the rain a Chandal, does it lose caste?" তিনি আমার আপন জাতের লোক। মামি চণ্ডালী সে যে মিথ্যা, সে যে মিথ্যা, সে যে দারুণ মিথ্যা। শ্রাবণের কালো যে মেঘ, তারে যদি নাম দাও চণ্ডাল, তা বলে কি জাত খুঁজিবে তার, অসুচি হবে কি তার জল। In this way, he shows all his dramas have a strong deconditioning effect on the students. Chandalika is a rebel. Nandini in Raktakorubi, again a protagonist, she's a rebel. She doesn't say yes to any kind of imposed structure, totalitarian structure. It's this movement in his writing started with Ocholayotan, the immovable, in 1908, when Panchak decided to discover what is on the other side of the wall. And while I was singing in Jerusalem, I had the same feeling as Panchak. Nandalal Bose putting makeup on Shantidev Ghosh, another singer, dancer of Tagore. This is how Tagore wrote Tasher Desh, the country of the cards, again the story of a very rigid social structure. And this boy, beautiful prince, he comes one day singing and dancing and talking about liberty, and he wins all the hearts, the feminine hearts of this country, especially of one. And that is the juxtaposition of two values that he creates all the time that affects a child's mind a lot. And this happens to be Master Moshai's invention of a dress. The sari is a batik sari done by Gauri Bhanja, his daughter. And look at the angularity that might remind us of the Java dancing costumes. So Master Moshai is not only a painter, he is a makeup man, he's a scenographer, and he's also inventing new kinds of costumes for the new kinds of plays that Rabindranath is offering to the world. I talked about Shuren Kaur. These are the houses. This is the ground which is the heart of the school, because we have our morning prayers here, and we have the flag hoisting ceremony here, and this is the place where you can sit and chat with your friends. And all the houses, they look somewhere very, very Eastern. Black House, as Sri Udayanarayan evoked, a very favorite spot of the Kalabhavan students because it has low reliefs from all the ancient artistic traditions of the world. Lastly, we come to the spiritual teaching that we receive here. Do we receive a spiritual teaching? Probably the teaching that it says, Ekamevadvitiyam Anandarupamritam Yadvivati. The one divine, there is only one God, there is none other. And this oneness is very important because anybody can identify with this feeling of oneness. And in our mandir, there is no image, there is no scripture. And Tagore has written profusely on Christ, Jesus' life, calling him the Son of Man, which is remarkable. And so I wanted to come to the end with this, the writing that accompany us all the time, and the last photo of an aging poet teacher who in 1937 decides to write a science book for us, Bishwa Porichoy, because he thinks that we should have a scientific attitude towards life. I will end the program with a song that is the heart of Tagore's creative impulse behind his educational experimentation, social experimentations. That is the pulsating rhythm that is guiding life. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Tari songe ki mridange sada baje tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Tari songe ki mridange sada baje tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Hashi kanna hira panna dole bhale kape chonde bhalo mondo tale tale. Hashi kanna hira panna dole bhale kape chonde bhalo mondo tale tale. Nache janmo nache mrityu pache pache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Nache janmo nache mrityu pache pache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Ki anondo ki anondo ki anondo dibaratri nache bhakti nache bandha. Ki anondo ki anondo ki anondo dibaratri nache bhakti nache bandha. Sheta range chutti range pache pache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Sheta range chutti range pache pache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Momo chitte niti nitte ke je nache tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi tata thoi thoi. Tari songe ki mridange sada baje tata thoi thoi tata thoi